And welcome back to Sullivan's Backstage Pass. I'm here with Giselle's Fatal Butterfly. Okay, so I first came across your material on YouTube, and you have this look about you, and I really appreciate your like presence on stage. Hey, how did you get started in music?
Well, that's a long story. Go back to about age 2, 3-ish. My mother put me in ballet at Tri-City Academy of Ballet, and I did dance performances most of like grade school, but I also got into doing musicals in like junior high. So fifth grade was my first musical performance in Richland, Washington. I can't remember which company it was with, but it was we were doing the Orphan Annie, and that was my first dance and song performance. I think, between the teachers at Tri-City Academy Ballet, there's particularly Deborah Rogo, who is still teaching there, and then the Annie performance and my parents supporting me at that age for singing and pretty much anything. I had like two enormous rooms I could dance around and sing in whenever I felt like it. That is really what launched me in this direction. Uh, but we don't always jump into being a musician, like a performing musician, when we're young. Sometimes we take a meandering route. And I didn't actually jump into the musician performing in a band stuff until my 30s, or later, actually, almost in my 40s. It was after my sons. I had triplet sons, and for that, I was really just a dancer and maybe an actress. Um, so, long story short, I blame it on Tri-City Academy of Ballet and performing in Orphan Annie.
And so, like, even though, like, you're talking about, like, how you weren't really sort of like a musician along the way, I would imagine, though, that you sang and sort of were sort of participating even in the background of music up until that point, right? So, like, at
Well,
what point
yeah.
did you discover you had the singing voice that you have? Because you're a talented singer.
I developed that voice over the years. I've always been a singer, but and it's not really true to say that I wasn't a musician. I just wasn't a performing musician. So I studied violin and piano and some percussion before, oh, and the flute before I jumped on to playing guitar and bass. Um, because that was like the times. In the 90s and the 80s, everybody was in music lessons. If you were even remotely annoying as a child, your parents threw you into music and dance and theater because you drove everyone crazy if they didn't. But
I respect
yeah,
that.
my singing voice is from growing up. Like some of it is just from aging, I think. When I was younger, it was clearer. It was much more of a clean musical voice. But as I've grown older, damage has happened to throat, smoke has happened and messed up stuff. And so now it's what it is.
So what was
Yeah.
it about that transition point, right? Because you started to become like a working musician or professional musician, if you will. What was it that called you to the stage? Because not a lot of people have enough courage to grab that mic before a performance begins. So what is it about live performances or being in front of a stage that calls you back every time?
So I have a song about that. And it's called Tattoo Stage Addict, and I haven't released it yet because I'm working on the music video. And I can't remember. No, it's also kind of in a work in progress right now. But I'm gonna be honest, like I'm a stage addict. My addiction started the first time I did a performance sometime around age 4 or 5, something. It was either a hula dance performance or it was the first time I did the Nutcracker as the baby mouse. That's when my addiction actually started. So I struggle with it, honestly. I am always happiest when I think I'm performing. Even right now, I did a bunch of prep for this because I'm a stage addict, and right now we're on stage. We had to do makeup, we had to pick out our outfit, we had to figure out what our stage looks like. Why did my light turn off? Okay, stay on, lights. See, I'm so picky, I had to fix the light on my snazzy new tripod with the ring lights, and because I'm a horrible stage addict. That's the only explanation I have.
But at the same time, though, that's what makes your performances so captivating, right? Because you put so much effort into each performance. I think a lot of people are under the misperception that somebody like you just kind of throws on an outfit and gets on stage. It's like, no, there's a lot of intentionality around each of your performances. Like I would imagine, and correct me if I'm wrong, you're going to perform in a different way based on the outfit for the evening, right?
Oh, yeah. Oh, definitely. So I'm going to show you some stuff. So let's go over here. So this one on the right here, wow, that one right
Yep.
there is for upcoming stuff. A friend of mine and I are putting together a fun little routine thing for the trans weeks or the pride weeks next year. That's my ballerina corn outfit. It's for pride. I was crazy and decided that I had the basic dress is from like a standard, unicorn costume, whatever, right? But I don't fit in it right. So I spent about 20 hours fixing that dress so that I can fit in it right because I like to, do everything. So, and then you go over here to, oh, yes, this fun guy right here. This is part of when I do my solo, like all of them for Halloween. This is part of the costumes for it. It goes to September, October, and it's uh obviously something bad happened when I was wearing that. This one is for my family band, Giselle's Triple Shots. And this is for when we play like heavy metal shows and stuff. So I wore this for our first 2 shows at the Mirkwood. But basically, it is kind of for when I'm doing a mix too. If I'm doing the Triple Shots and Fatal Butterfly, it's a good crossover dress. This one, I have a 15-minute medley, and the story behind this dress is a certain venue in the south part of Washington State booked me and decided that they didn't like my solo in its full form and that they weren't going to book me ever again. And I had booked another show with bridgingthemusic.com, which guys don't book with them. It's a scam. Anyways, moving on, they only let me have 15 minutes. So I spent about 2 weeks making this dress. One, because I had to roast that wonderful venue for trying to silence my beautiful voice and all that I do. And number 2, because I only had 15 minutes. Anyways, as you can see, it's a full dress of fun. I'm a jukebox. It's missing its little popper that has like a CD on a. Anyways, this
That's awesome.
is this is like a song. This is the Vampire Attacked Me bodice. Here is everyone's favorite 6-inch pointed Madonna bra, and our lovely little skirt that we sometimes wear with it. because sometimes we're a ballerina. So I know I'm silly. Look, when you have nothing else
Apologize for
to do in
nothing.
your life, this is what you do. You pretend you're a Barbie doll.
I love that. So I guess my,
So,
my next question is how you came up with the title Fatal Butterfly.
so that was actually gifted to me by another performer in Washington State. I don't know if he's still up and about doing things. When I first decided I was going to try and do a band, it was because I was still, funky shaped from being pregnant with triplets, and I didn't have the ability to really pull together a solo, and I wanted to do a group thing. He had that as an idea, and he basically gifted me Fatal Butterfly, and I took that and grew it into what it is today. So he was one of the original members of it. So that's how that happened.
And then in terms of like I'm curious. So when you start out in music, so you have like the piano and those other aspects. Did that help you later on in your career when you tried to pick up the guitar and the bass?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. Any music theory you learn, especially if it's from piano, it translates out to every instrument. It is technically a string instrument. And when you're looking at scores or tablature or just talking to people in general who are musicians, any theory you learn on the piano translates directly over to the guitar. So once you understand the way the fretboard is set up on your instrument, any string instrument, once you understand how your notes are created on any of your wind instruments, then you can take that information and apply it to piano or vice versa. So that's why piano is like considered a, foundation instrument for people to learn, is even if you spend a couple of years just learning the theory behind piano, why piano is built the way it is, you take that and you can move forward with any other instrument that you love. So you don't have to be a pianist to grow off of piano theory, because all of it is like, it's like a large language that we all learn. So that's why you get musicians. There's different types of musicians. You have musicians who learn one instrument and they become incredibly good at that one instrument, but you can't get them to play anything else. And then you have musicians like me who are chaotic and will be like, I wonder if I can play this song on this instrument. There's a person in my practice studio who has two rooms because he picks up a new instrument, learns it, gets really good at it, gets bored, goes buy a new instrument, learns it, gets really bored at it, gets a new one. And yeah, because he's a musician.
So I'm curious though, so like as you sort of pick up the guitar and the bass and like all of these other instruments, what was it at the time that really made you make the decision to form your own band?
Um, well, I was, raising triplets is, it's like you get dragged into a new world. Okay, so the first 7 or so years of raising multiples, it's almost like you're you can't do anything. You literally, that's all you do. Okay. I'm an entertainer. When I got pregnant, I was dancing on stage 3, 4, or 5 nights a week. I got pregnant. I couldn't do that anymore. I spent 7 years raising my kids and I slowly lost my mind. So it was literally like, what can I do to get back on stage? If I pick up a guitar or a bass, it covers my stomach. I can't do everything. I'm not ready to be a solo artist. I'll get a band. That was literally my thought process because, and at the time it was easy to find new musicians or semi-pro musicians or whatever that were up for a fun project band or whatever and just kind of roll with it. So it was I had it really easy. And then the pandemic hit and that flipped the switch on me again. And basically I wasn't able to maintain a band, so I had to go solo. So before the pandemic, I was not quite as wild. This outfit right here was about as wild as I got for my costumes because I had people kind of controlling that, Sometimes your bandmates are like, oh, I don't want you wearing that or whatever. After I dropped the bandmates, I went like, there's no stopping me. I will wear whatever I feel like.
And I appreciate that because it sort of follows your music, right? And can I offer a different acronym than chaotic? Yeah. You're free. You're free to do whatever music you want, wear whatever you want. You are free as a musician to follow your passion. Is it different? Absolutely. But you are free. And I just want to say, I just appreciate that about your music and your art because it's very rare that artists or musicians have the ability to just express yourself like you want to express yourself. What has it felt like over the last, since we've been back at COVID, to be able just to be as free as you want on stage?
Honestly, it's like one of the best feelings ever. Yeah, it's better than being in like a group and okay, we got to conform. No, it is like the best. It's the best high. The endorphin rush off of it is insane, and my confidence just exploded. I no longer have to wait for someone to say yes or no to me. I just do it, and so I go out there and I do 100%, and there's nobody on stage giving me any criticism whatsoever. And I don't criticize myself without somebody else being hypercritical. By my own, I go out there and I just give it all because I'm actually an entertainer. Like I was born this way. This isn't like I want to. I was born, and within the first year, I was driving my poor family nuts, singing and dancing and whatever I was doing. So, for me, it's like leveling up. So like the top, I've hit the top. That's the best it gets. And then my sons decided they want to be my bandmate, and that's just like leveling up above that. So it is like the best.
And you bring up a good question, right? And it's something that I sort of like to talk to all the guests on my podcast about. How important is it for a musician who wants to get in a band to just get along with the other bandmates?
That's really important, but you can't do it in a manner that cuts your own creativity or your own confidence. You can't. So one of the biggest challenges for band leaders is chemistry, maintaining chemistry. And also commitment. It's kind of the reason why like indie bands and punk bands just get together and fall apart like this. You can't keep track of them. It's all based on chemistry. But chemistry isn't something that's like how you nitpick behave each other. Okay. Chemistry comes from respect and enjoyment and friendship, right? So you can have a situation where everyone gets along for a while and then somebody does something completely outside of the performances or the band, but they did something that really upsets the rest of the band, and that'll kill your chemistry. And so I don't look at it as like how do we make each other get along? It's about understanding chemistry and commitment, right? Commitment. When I'm talking about commitment, I mean, like, what is your long-term commitment? Because I've had bandmates who are like, I'm going to give your band 2 years. If we are not touring the world in 2 years, I'm out. Well, that's a recipe for disaster. If I'd known that back when I dealt with that person, I would have never even let them in my band. Bands don't skyrocket like that. That's not the reality. The reality is 90% of us work for 4, 5, 6 years to get our shit completely in line. And I mean completely in line. And then we hopefully get into LA and we don't get scammed by all the LA venues or the New York venues or all the other venues, right? And we work and we work and we work. And there's like tons. I know a lot of bands who are like 15, 20 years along who still are only playing local shows, who do not do national tours, okay? Because you toil most of it is toiling. So it's not really about like making each other get along. It's about commitment. How long are you committed to the project? When my sons decided they wanted to be musicians and they came and asked me if they could be musicians, I have a video going up on YouTube at some point when I get it edited of them doing this. Because we did their birthday show, we did a reenactment of it. I made them give me a lifetime commitment. I said, I've been through too much heartbreak, too much pain, too much things where bandmates are not committed forever for this. If you guys are going to be my bandmates, if we're going to do the family band thing, it's till your mama dies. And I said, okay, it's till I die. The triple shots, Giselle's triple shots until I die. Because you can't build anything if people are constantly quitting your band. You can't build anything if you don't have commitment. You can't build anything if you have people who have bad ethics and bad morals and go out and do dumb stuff, illegal stuff, hurt people, and think that it's not going to affect your image. That's not the world we live in. There's no separation anymore between it. So that's my thoughts on it. Like,
and I really appreciate that perspective too, right? Because like it's one of those things where in the music industry today, the amount of work that goes into being a paid musician, and if you have that sort of environment on your band where one person is having a different kind of energy, it throws the energy off of everyone. And don't think for a second that people in the crowd don't see that. Like they can tell if your vibe is off. Because how important is it from your perspective, the relationship between you on stage and the audience?
Well, when I'm preparing for a show, I have the week before the show, there's a whole bunch of stuff I do that's about my mood, and I shut out people who bring in toxic, negative, upsetting stuff that doesn't need to be on my plate. The 24 hours or sometimes even 48 hours before the show, I will go through and block people on Facebook and on my phone who have a tendency to send me random drama, oh my God, crap that I don't need to think about. Because when I'm on stage, actually, the moment I arrive at the venue to the moment I leave the venue, I'm on stage. And my mood is the only thing that matters. And I have to be able to make the audience feel like they are going to have a really good time. That's the only thing that matters. So I shut down communication. There's people that are probably still pissed off at me because I had to shut them down because they were trying to get me to worry about something that had nothing to do with what I need to do. And That communication with your audience is the only thing that matters. If you see comedians, they're on stage with nothing but what they happen to wear that day. And if they don't connect with that audience and get that audience laughing and having a good time like this, they are knocked off and blacklisted. Getting into comedian work is like the hardest work to get into. You cannot fail the first time you're on stage with that. And when it comes down to it, that's true about everything in entertainment. All of it.
Yeah, because a lot
So,
of times if somebody's like new at the show and they've never seen you before, you only have a 5 minute window to grab them.
mm-hmm.
And so
Yeah.
I'm curious though, like, so with all of the outfits behind you, like when you made that point back from COVID, what was your idea? Like, how did this sort of idea of getting as dressed up and invested on stage come about?
That's actually just, I've always been that way. When I was, like I
That's
said,
fair.
I had bandmates who didn't like it, but I'm going to be honest, like a couple of my first few years where I had a full band, I had dresses that were kind of like this one. This is puffy paint on a fabric, right? And it's the whole zombie attacked me motive thing, right? So I had two dresses that were just covered, and it looked like I had just been attacked, and there's blood everywhere. Those are at my mom's right now. But I've always been this way. I've always been this way. I don't know how to put on normal clothes for a show. Uh, this one has a little pocket, so all of my
That's
show
awesome.
stuff has a pocket that I put my battery pack for my headset mic because I do a headset mic. And yeah, I don't know how to be a normal performer. What the fuck is that? I'm sorry, but
No,
I'm a
apologize for nothing.
queer. We don't do this going out of the house looking normal thing. What are you talking about?
Yeah, I view the word normal the way I view music, right? There is no such thing as a bad song. It's just a song that you might like over somebody else might not like. And
Yes.
all music is beautiful, just like every human being is beautiful and deserves to be their authentic self when they come out the door. Like, don't judge people for what they wear, folks. Like, that's just judgment is such a useless activity in life. I don't understand it, but that's a soapbox for another time.
That's another
Uh,
we can have lots of stories about that. Because I'm not 18. I look 18, I look 21. I'm 51.
so,
So yes.
so I guess my next question is about the sort of like the stage piece, right? So when you're getting
Uh-huh.
ready to do a performance, how much attention do you pay to dynamics and volume when you're getting ready for a show?
Well, the dynamics and volume is something that the sound person handles. I have my own, well, this is actually two kit setups, but basically that is my pedal board. Okay. And it's a it's actually for the tap dancing as well. So that's it's completely different than, and I have to clarify the middle part is my son's pedal board. So the big part is a sound floor and I tap dance. It makes my taps a lot louder. Okay. And so that's where I handle sound quality is from my instrument. Uh, so I have like pedals and then they go into the board and then the sound guy at the board goes up there and makes everything sound absolutely amazing. So, because you can't really do both, to tell you the honest truth.
That's fair. That's fair. And I guess my next question is if you were to be talking to venues, right? One question I ask every artist that comes on my back on my podcast, if there would be one thing that venues could do to make your performance a little bit better, what would that be?
Um, hmm. You know, I'm not entirely sure. I think researching like what I do, you know what I mean? Like, don't expect if you're looking for some person off the street who doesn't put effort into production and costuming and like a flyer and like stuff like that. You know what I mean? Be honest with me because that's my normal. My normal is to put, 100% into it on all of the levels. And, you know, not, I'm not like gonna show up in my work clothes with a acoustic guitar, sit there and mumble out songs. That's incredibly boring to me. Like I can't even, you know, I think I would charge more for that, for the emotional abuse side of it.
That's fair. And the reason I bring it up is because I wish more venues had this sort of like partnership approach with musicians, because at the end of the day, like we're in this together, right? And so like do some research, know the musician that you're inviting, and then make sure that you're taking steps to help support that musician when they're there. Because if the venue has that best relationship, the musician, like everybody wins. It's one of those strange dynamics where I see like some venues look at it as a predatory sort of environment instead of like, no, this is a partnership. We need each other. Without music, there's no venue. Without venue, there's no music. This is a partnership, folks.
I do think there's a lot of problems with the way the industry has started work, especially with small venues. There's only a few venues up here in Washington that have contracts that are amenable for all sides. Most of the places up here for people like me who are not booking 500-person venues are, very predatory. They're not fair to the amount of effort that entertainers put in. They forget that the very entertainer they want to pay hardly anything to perform on stage and be at their venue for hours, providing atmosphere, modeling, which is a thing. When we're at the venue and we're not physically on stage and we are out in the audience, we are providing atmosphere modeling for free. Okay. They forget that we're also customers. We are asked to buy food and drink there. That makes us a customer. We can go to that venue outside of the showtime anytime we want to. That makes us a customer. You can't treat your entertainers / customers differently depending on what situation you're in, or like slaves. You know what I mean? So I think there's a lot of problems. And my sons are in business. I have 2 sons in business school, and we're working on some ideas because we're kind of tired of it. And I don't want them to go through what they've had to watch me go through. So, we might be opening our own venue.
That would be epic.
It would be epic, wouldn't it? It would be so epic. You have no idea. So I think it would be awesome. But right now I'm working on my mostly online content.
I dig that. But and then in terms of like when you do perform, do you usually go with like a set list or do you kind of feel on what the crowd is doing and just kind of match whatever the crowd is throwing at you?
Oh no, I have a specific set list that I practiced out because if I do my full thing, there's costume changes. It's very specific. I don't go up there and do the I wonder what the audience feels like. No, I'm really planned out. I think like I'm performing in a musical, so there's a storyline to it. Okay. When I did my 15-minute medley, the songs I chose for the medley are ordered so that the lyrics actually tell a story because I don't know how to not do that. Um, I literally don't know how to approach a performance without a, thinking from a full musical director brain.
And I really appreciate that too, right? Because like one of the things that I enjoy most in life is when you go to a concert or a show and you get to go on a musical journey that's intentional. Because one, you know it's going to be special, and two, and correct me if I'm wrong, no two shows of yours are exactly the same. So the
No,
amount of effort that you put into every single show being intentional is massive, and it's going to be a fun time no matter what. And I just want to say how much I appreciate that you take that approach because it just makes music more enjoyable. And so how much influence did like all of that time as a child, sort of growing up in the dance sort of environment, have on your modern day interpretation of music?
oh, it's really deep. Even though I'm not trained to be like a traditional concert pianist or something. All of those years of hearing ballet music, the stuff that we did our dances to, it's in my body. It's in there. So it comes out in how I write my music. Um every single it really comes out in like the tempo and the cadence and the mood of it a lot of times. And I'm extremely particular about tempo. I don't like my songs changed. The stuff I put up, you can't download and mess with. And the reason is because I don't like my stuff changed. I don't like AI used on it unless I've said, yes, you can do AI on it. You are not allowed to do AI on any of my stuff. I will get pissed because I have this huge ego and I put so much into it. And it's not happenstance. You know, I don't write formula songs. If you ask me to write a song, I'm not going to sit down and throw one of the basic chord progressions at you and spill out some stuff. And no, that's not how I write songs. That's like, I don't know what that is. That's not me. I'm very particular. I'm writing a whole scene. You're going to see and hear in your mind a freaking musical performance. And so I am really particular about that. And the dance comes out in the way it makes your body feel like moving. When I write cadences and I write tempo and I'm, work with my drummer, it comes out in that. So like September, October, and Zombie Family were both the new versions. Well, September, October, the standard version, and the newest version of Zombie Family were both recorded with a drummer who is amazing. I'm going to shout out his name. His name is Josh Owen. He's amazing. He's in like 4 really big casino bands and stuff. Anyways, when I went and worked with him, I actually did my tap dance with the song while I was playing it, so he could understand the cadence of it, so that when he did his drumming, he could incorporate the cadence of the tap dance, so that when I tap dance with the song, it supports it. That's what I'm talking about. in how my methodology works. Like, it's cool, honestly.
And that actually ties into one of the questions I love to ask artists like yourself, and then that's about the muse. Because I do believe the muse is a living, breathing thing. And when she visits you with some musical idea, you never know when she's going to strike. So when the muse visits you and you get like an idea for a new song, how do you capture that?
Well, it takes me a long time because I don't capture all the ideas. Uh, I come up with like a ridiculous number of ideas while I'm listening to other people's stuff. And then I look back at it and I hate it. So, um, it takes a lot of effort. She has to work really, really hard to get me to like, yeah, I think I'm going to do a song on this. Usually it'll be like a certain, you know, melody gets in there, or I splurt out like a poem or a bunch of lyrics, and I'm like, yeah, these work, right? Or something. But it takes her a lot of effort because I don't just spit out every little thing. I go probably have like 15 ideas in a day, and none of them go anywhere. So, yeah, I have to be in the right mood. She's got to hit me at the right time. It's kind of like
And
sex with me.
that's fair. And then like when she does though, like and you get do you like have like a recording device that's nearby? Do you write stuff down? Like how do you sort of
Oh
like
no, I wait till it's in my head and annoying me, and then I
gotcha?
start actually working on it.
And then once you
Yeah.
have this idea in your head and you start working on it, are you looking at the dance piece as well for like the entire process? So I guess what I'm getting at is like when you get an idea and you're starting to sort of like write music, I'm thinking, and correct me if I'm wrong, that you have this idea of what the final product might look like. And that helps define the path you take for the music, right?
Yes and no, because music at the very beginning of writing it is really amorphous. I tend to pick up my bass. I like to write music on my bass. Do we have our bass out? Ah, yes, we have this one. This is, where is she? My sparkly bass right here. Sparkly Sugar Balls. Sparkly Sugar Balls is the first bass I ever got. She's very multi-purpose. She likes to play, and a lot of times I write on that bass. Unless I'm going to write heavy metal, then I'll pull out my 5-string. But I like to write on bass because the way the reverberation works is easy, and you can find your root notes a lot faster. Because bass, a lot of times when you're writing on bass, you're just writing the pocket of it, or you're writing through scales, and so you know where your root notes are going to be for your chord progression, and that gives you the information you need for all of the rest of it. So I tend to write on bass just because that is for me, the easiest instrument to write on. Um, Everyone has their own. Like a lot of musicians prefer writing on guitar because you can mess around with all the chord progressions and the standard chord progressions and da 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 da. I like to go from bass. I like the bass.
And I love that,
So
like, because like you said, no two musicians do it the same. And so, like, what is it about the genre that you sort of have selected or sort of like are sort of musically inclined? Because there's no real, like, I don't want to put a label on your music. I can't. Your music sort of speaks for itself, right? And so,
yeah.
what is it about the sort of music that you love that called you to that, right? Because some people it's the blues, some people it's metal or honky tonk like what is it about this specific type of music that calls to you?
Uh, honestly, I have no idea. Um, that's how I think when I'm writing music. I don't know. I think of myself as like angry girl horror punk.
I love
That's what
that.
I think of myself as. But I can't really I mean, I was a I fell in love with rock and roll and everything in the 90s. So you had Susie and the Banshees, you had Bjork, you had the Cranberries, you had Madonna, you had Cyndi Lauper, you had Bette Midler. Let's see who else you had. Oh my gosh, I'm forgetting people like crazy. The wide variety of female entertainers and musicians that came out of the 90s was mind-boggling. You don't see that today, but that's what I grew up with. So for me, there's a part of me that goes into my junior high brain and picks out stuff that I liked from the stuff I heard in the 90s when I was growing up and, junior high and high school. And I think that has more influence on me than anything else. It's not even that I learned how to play any of those songs. I don't know how to play any of them. It's more that's where I like find the part of my brain that can be like, oh, it's time to create something new. You know, that's like I'm still stuck, I guess. I still have a little bit of a little girl brain, and yeah,
Which I think
that's the
also
only
lends itself to, yeah, no, that's legit, right? Because like y- you can't really put a label on you, right?
I
Yeah,
like that, honestly. I love the part
yeah.
where you can't really figure out where to put me.
I think that's quintessential you, and I want people to know, like, if you go out and check out Giselle's Fatal Butterfly, like, you are gonna get a show that you will not get anywhere else, and it'll be fun and entertaining, and oof. So I guess my next question is about sort of like the recording piece.
Yeah.
So like when you're recording music, are you the kind of person that likes to record separate tracks? Do you prefer to like record like all at once, sort of like as an ensemble? Like what is your approach when you want to record music?
Well, that's an interesting conversation. So, I usually have a song prepared completely before I go into the recording process, but there is an addendum to that. Because before, when I had a band, it was get everybody up to par so we can go into the studio and we all record as a band. That doesn't happen with me anymore. What I do now is I set down, like for new stuff moving forward, I set down my baseline for what I want because that's where I set my tempo and my cadence and the mood, right? The bass pretty much puts you in the genre. It determines if you're in a punk genre, a rock genre, a metal genre, a speed genre, right? Or grunge, which rolls in between punk and metal. Okay. Those are the genres I play in. I don't do blues. I use blues progressions. I use blues scaling. I don't play blues songs because I don't think like a blues writer. Okay. But I still use it's the same musical information, it's the same theory. Gets applied to punk or grunge or metal or speed for what I play. All right. So I usually lay down that bass line, make sure I've got my lyrics close enough to what I want it to be with the bass line. And then I get a hold of Josh Owen and I schedule recording date. And we spend about an hour figuring out what he's going to do for drums. And then he finalizes it and sends me a track. And I take the drum tracks that he sends me and I throw them down on this one. this handy little pedal, the RC5. Throw it on this guy, and this one lets me play the drum tracks next to the bass. So I throw the drum tracks on here. I work on laying down what my bass line is. When I like it, I can finalize it on here, like a scratch track. Then I lay down like my guitar levels. So you got, your rhythm guitar and probably like 1 or 2 leads, or maybe 3 if you're me. And then I take all of that stuff. I go to my favorite studio, Peel Studios, with Michael Springer, and we hang out for an afternoon, and we put down final recordings for the songs. So that's my program. I don't go to like the super expensive big name studios. I did one once. I wasn't like floored at what it was. I honestly, working with Michael Springer has been better than, trying to do the big guys who cost a lot of money. So
and there's also a level of customer service there, right? I impress upon everybody, like, take a look at your local record labels, your local producers, your local recording studios, because more often than not, you get way more support and way more bang for your buck. And every dollar you spend locally stays local. But again, that's another soapbox for another time.
Yes, it is. Another interview. Yeah.
So then, so as you're sort of looking into the future for the next couple of years, are you starting to see sort of something that I'm starting to see, that people are coming back out to enjoy live music again?
I do see it. We still have a problem up here in Washington where our fans are mostly going to the really big venues and they're not visiting the small venues. So, for instance, whenever anybody comes into a giant stadium down in Seattle, our local bars and stuff have very small turnout. And I don't really know how to fix that, to be straight up honest. We've had a lot of conversations up here in Washington about how to deal with that. And there's a lot of things. There's things that venues have to do to make sure their venue is safe for everyone. So that means making sure you are a woke venue. You have safety for disabled people. You have safety for our LGBTQ family members. You have safety for everyone. And I mean everyone. And we have problems with that not occurring up here. We have problems with people with venues not fixing restrooms, not fixing entryways, not making sure there's proper lighting, things like that. All that has to be done. The people coming out are way pickier now than ever before. And you can't get away with anything that isn't up to par. And the reason why they are flooding the really large venues still and going to the mega stars and not coming out to local indie artists at all is because they know if they go to that giant venue, there's going to be ample security. There's going to be ample lighting. There's going to be ample parking. The bathroom is going to be clean. Okay. That's the rules. So I think that, as much as I love my music scene up here, I think a lot of work has to be done.
It's kind of the same way in Portland too, really. I mean, we have a lot of decent venues. At the same time, though, like, you have a band like Johnny Wheels and the Swamp Donkeys, where the lead singer is quadriplegic in a wheelchair, and his band members still have to lift him on the stage almost everywhere he goes.
No.
Not a single venue is willing to spend $250 on a temporary ramp. Like, this happens all the time, folks. And I really appreciate what you said there, right? Because I want people to understand this part too. Because a lot of my audience is in that disability advocacy space. if people with disabilities come to your show, I guarantee you, folks, you will be welcomed there.
Well, but like I said, we have to make sure it's all safe. And for someone like
Yeah.
me, who won, I am just now, just now entering the yes, you are a disabled adult, Giselle world, right? And I have triplet sons who are autistic adults. Okay. I can't consider booking venues that don't have everything up to par. And if the few that do have are up to par are not getting enough fan base to come out, even like my last few shows just didn't have the draw it needed. That's so everything is closing. Like that's a problem, right? So, I don't know what the answer is completely, except that maybe I need to open my own venue because when I do it, everything goes great.
And I can't wait for that day to happen because I know that you would take a proactive approach to the venue when it comes to those kinds of things.
Well, yeah, like, I can think of one venue that actually has a ramp where you can walk stuff directly onto the stage. One in Washington that I've gone to that wasn't Omega. And even for people who aren't in a wheelchair, I have an ankle injury from being attacked by a dog when all I was doing was delivering pizza for DoorDash, like both my ankles. I can't really do the stair stuff all of the time. I have to have help moving things that I used to be able to move. So you can't expect anything. Like you have to make sure your venue is inclusive for 100% of the people who might come to your venue. You can't expect any person to make accommodations for your venue not being up to par. And I don't think people are getting that.
I couldn't agree more. And then in terms of, so we've been at this for almost an hour now. So I guess the best way to sort of round out the conversation is where can people go to find your music?
So on Facebook, I have a page called Fatal Butterfly. It's attached to my personal page called Giselle K. Lopresti. On that page, you'll also find a link to Giselle's Triple Shots. You can also find my personal Giselle's Fatal Butterfly, or it's under Fatal Butterfly on YouTube. And then my sons, who are savant drummers, actually, I probably am one too, but we're not going to talk about that. They have a page called Savant Triple Beats on YouTube where I fanned out and videotaped them doing drum lessons with Angie Megan. Anyways, so right now that's where everything is at, is on YouTube. I will be releasing all of my 8 songs, or maybe it's 9 songs, throughout the next couple of years on Spotify. What I did is I had to take everything down and let it all cancel itself out. And then I purchased new ISRC codes that are just under my name. And I have to republish everything. So that's a work in progress because I have to do little videos and whatnot. It's not like, and it's published. No, there's a lot that goes into that. And probably we'll try and do some, after I heal up from my ankle surgery, I will probably try and hopefully do some shows and maybe do some song releases or something fun next year if that works out. So,
Well, Giselle, I can't thank you enough for being here. Check out Federal Butterfly, folks, and I'll end the podcast the way I always end the podcast. Be kind. We all live on the same planet. We breathe the same air, and this world would be just a little bit better of a place if we treated everybody with a little kindness and respect. Giselle, thank you.
thank you so much. Have a good day.
Thanks.